Nature has its own unique way of showing its supremacy over the humanity. It includes natural occurrences and disasters. Natural disasters disrupt people, trigger migration, and cause physical disability, apart from affecting our lives in numerous other ways. The natural disaster that repeatedly causes maximum destruction and affect lives and properties in India is the floods. India is the worst flood-affected country in the world after Bangladesh. It has 12% or 40 million hectares of flood-prone area, out of which around 8 million hectares are affected every year by floods. The severity of this disaster can be gauged by the fact that every year around 1,595 lives and 13,000 million rupees are lost, apart from affecting millions of people. Floods are high stream flows which overlap natural or artificial banks of a river or a stream and are markedly higher than the usual, as well as inundation of low land. Flash floods that occur within 6 hours during heavy rainfall. River floods which may continue for days or weeks, and coastal floods which is associated with various cyclonic activities. Floods can occur due to various reasons: melting of glaciers, cloud burst, blockages of channels. In the past, the response was almost entirely concentrated on during and post-disaster short and long-term measures such as search and rescue, relief work, rehabilitation, development and recovery. The Yokohama Strategy 1994 and Hugo Framework for Action 2005 for a Safer World brought in a revolutionary change in strategy. It marked a new paradigm shift in the field of disaster management, whereby every nation focused on shifting from disaster relief and response to disaster mitigation, risk reduction, and preparedness. After the review and assessment of Hugo Framework for Action 2005-15, the adoption of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015-2030 takes into account the experience gained and underlines 4 priorities for action: understanding disaster risk, strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk, investing in disaster risk reduction for resilience, and enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. The strategy of flood risk reduction, mitigation, and preparedness is based on 3-pronged approach. Mitigation, preparedness include response mechanism. Mitigation means techno-legally approved measures taken in advance that are aimed to decrease or eliminate the impact of disasters on the community and environment in future. The flood mitigation measures may be classified into structural and non-structural measures. The structural measures are physical in nature and aim to prevent flood waters from reaching potential damage areas. Non-structural measures include the use of floodplains, zoning, mapping, floodproofing, and early warning and forecasting judiciously for reducing the disaster dimension while retaining its beneficial effects. The combination of appropriate structural and non-structural measures will be useful in flood mitigation. In developing countries, population explosion is a major problem. In search of employment, people migrate towards cities. This has resulted in increasing encroachment in floodplains by construction of illegal or legally built buildings in such areas. Floodplain zoning recognizes the basic fact that floodplains are essentially ruled by the whims of river flows. And as such, all developmental activities in floodplains must be compatible with the flood risk involved. It is aimed to regulate the land use in order to restrict damage due to floods. Due to rapid urbanization, more and more cities and towns are now becoming concrete jungles. This has led to the danger of flooding in our cities. Rainwater harvesting is a useful and environment or eco-friendly measure in flood mitigation. Rainwater harvesting can be more useful in urban areas for flood mitigation point of view. It has become an important measure to cope the changes brought in by the changing climate patterns. River basin management is one of the biggest challenges of the 21st century. River basin management includes all aspects of hydrology, ecology, environmental management, wetlands and floodplains. River basin management deals with technical as well as socio-economic and ecological aspects and calls for an integrated approach. An important part of flood mitigation measure is resilience measures, which have a role to play in ensuring the safety and robustness of necessary development. Flood resilient structures are such structures that can reduce the impact of floods. Floods, which are a natural hazard, need not become a disaster if we are prepared and are well aware of how to deal with them. Flood planning is about putting in place a set of appropriate arrangements in advance for an effective response to floods. The most effective preparedness measure is the forecasting and early warning network that covers most of the flood-prone river basins of the country. It enables us to be forewarned as when the river is flowing over the floodplain, to what extent and for how long. In our country, flood forecasting is done by the Central Water Commission through 175 flood forecasting stations. Today, remote sensing and geographical information system also playing an important role in the preparation of an action plan for reducing the impact of floods and also in better floodplain management. The effects of floods on the health and well-being of the affected population is not restricted during the event alone. There are a number of long-term factors like spread of waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea, malaria, and other fecal and oral diseases whose effects can be felt over a period of time after the event. Therefore, medical preparedness is one of the vital factors in flood risk management. Evacuation of flood-affected communities is one of the most difficult response measures, especially when it involves large population. Evacuation is carried out as a precautionary measure based on warnings issued in order to protect flood-threatened people from the full effects of flood disaster. Training of NDRF, Army and other paramilitary personnel forms the backbone of this strategy dealing with response planning. Community participation or the cooperation of the people with the local administration is expected to be more effective and useful if people are fully conscious, empowered, and trained in all aspects of flood management. The Incident Response System, or the IRS, focuses on a system of management and procedures for an incident of any size or severity. Under IRS, all aspects of flood preparedness and response operations are well practiced and the personnel are trained well before an incident occurs. In general perception, flooding primarily relates to rural areas, but urban flooding is not a new phenomenon. The mechanism of urban flooding is complex and site-specific, as amply highlighted by the experience of Mumbai floods in year 2005. Other incidences of floods like Barmer floods in 2006, Uttarakhand in 2013, and Kashmir in 2014 have shown that sudden and incessant rains, perhaps due to changes in the climate, are the major factors behind such deluges. It has been noted that women are disproportionately affected by natural disasters. Therefore, they are a vital part of disaster mitigation and response efforts. A community-based disaster preparedness and response plan that is based on women's physical, psychological, social and economic vulnerabilities will help to reduce women's vulnerability to disaster. Many development experts question whether large-scale flood control projects are economically suitable for the least developed countries. Interest has recently increased in alternative strategies for protecting the floodplains, especially in rural areas. Natural disaster has potential to wipe out years of development in a matter of few minutes or hours, or over an extended period of time. Although disasters cannot be prevented fully, but their impact can be reduced by latest technological developments and by adopting the new paradigm strategies in disaster management with prime focus on preparedness and mitigation in place of response and relief. Overall, it is the responsibility of all of us to collectively inculcate the culture of prevention, which is the most important tool with which we can mitigate the effects of a natural calamity. Therefore, we as a society and as a community must imbibe this culture of prevention. Always remember, it is worth to be prepared than waiting for action afterwards. And we should also adopt the habit of living with floods.